All right. So, welcome to the final episode of the first season of Catching Flights with Ranveer. And for this episode, I have a very special guest, a friend of mine that I met on the road in Georgia. It's Ashley Tariro. How are you, Ashley?
Good, Ran. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I hope you're well.
Yes, everything is good. I'm so glad that you made the time to come on. It means a lot. So, thank you for that as well.
You're welcome. You're most welcome. I'm glad I'm able to share my experiences with the world, through your channel.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what we want, right? I want to talk to you about your unique perspectives on travel, which is a passion that we both share and love, and of course, bringing stories from um, very unique kind of people that you meet on the road, right? Not so much of what we see
Mhm.
on YouTube all the time, whether it's me or you. So, um,
Yes.
yeah. So, I mean, before we get to it, why don't you, introduce yourself a little bit to those who don't know you and maybe watching us?
My name is Ashley Tariro. I'm from Zimbabwe. I'm 25 years old and I work in Dubai as an accounting assistant manager. Um, and I love traveling. I love traveling with a passion. That's me.
I love it. That's amazing. So, of course, traveling with a passion. Let's start with that. So, where does the passion
Mm.
come from?
It's just about being in an unfamiliar place for the first time, being in a new place for the first time, being in unfamiliar territory, experiencing different cultures, that kind of motivates me, and I try my best to learn a new skill that I can be able to apply in my life every time I travel. I
Hmm.
learn from the locals something little. It might be minute, but it's something that I apply in my life to be able to use, it kind of gives you a different perspective than the rest of the beat, like than what you were seeing before. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's where my passion comes from. Just wanting to experience different things, for the first time.
Yeah, yeah. No, I can definitely share in that. And these kinds of experiences are what uh build character, right? And these are
Mm.
experiences that also shape our personalities and, in most cases, make us better people. After each and every
True.
trip, we grow both internally and externally as well in terms of our habits and our actions towards others as well. So, yeah, I mean, I
Mm.
totally agree with that. And I think, having a passion for travel is one thing, right? Because, some people just want to take the annual vacation and do it once a year and all that, which is fine. But, we've made it part of our lives, right? We've kind of
Mm.
embedded it into our habits, let's say. So yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah. So I'm curious to know how you manage that because obviously you're working, you have a full time job. So how do you
Mm.
manage, you know, both things?
So I work from home. It's easy for me to
Yeah,
travel because I can do remote work travel. I
yeah.
my boss, of course, I talked to my boss about it, and he's okay with me traveling while I'm working. Working while I'm traveling. Either
Mm,
way, he's
yeah.
okay with that as long as I'm available to be able to answer all the emails and speak to my colleagues and all that. So that has kind of helped me to kind of see the world and as well as work at the same time. I've
Hmm.
had the opportunity to kind of travel and work at the same time. It's a blessing and it's amazing. I've
Hmm.
gotten to learn so many things and it's just beautiful. That's how I'm able to see so many places. That's why people ask me, Ashley, do you work? Do you go to work? Like I get so many messages. What do you do? I always see you on the road. I'm like, no, I'm working. I'm working and
Yeah,
traveling,
yeah. No, I think
Yeah. So
sometimes
it's
people think the money
crazy.
comes from the trees. No,
Exactly.
no, it's just about
Exactly.
how you purpose your funds, right? I think
That's true.
that's also very important to consider and think about,
Mm. Mm.
Um,
And
my
also,
yeah,
being in Dubai, it's like the hub is like you're literally in the middle of everything. So it's
yes,
easier for me to travel to certain destinations and it's cheaper as well as compared to if I was maybe back home in Zimbabwe and I needed to travel to Europe or to Asia, it would be more expensive. But because I'm in the middle of everything, it's cheaper and affordable for me.
yeah. Oh, that's definitely an advantage, right? And I think I can say the
Mm.
same as well. Thailand is, a hub. number one place in the world for tourism, right? Most visited tourists as well. Also a transit hub along with Singapore. So, there are a lot of flights that come in and out of this region. And yeah, it makes planning a little bit easier, right? Maybe we're kind of
Mm.
in the center on the other side of
Of
that
everything,
radius,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
of the
Yeah.
radius. Um, but yeah, no, that's, it's really a good point, right? Sometimes you have to have luck as well, whether it's of your
Mm,
geography or your passport. Um, and
true.
yeah, I want to know a bit more about that as well, because Zimbabwe, not really the best passport in the world, is
True. It's
it?
one of the weakest passports in the world. It's hard to travel around the world with a weak passport. It's really hard.
How do
But,
you do it?
I try to make it work.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a UAE resident, so it kind of helps as well because there are certain destinations whereby they just say, if you're a UAE resident, you're able to come to this destination. So that's an advantage that I've had. But for people who aren't, well, that don't have the same advantage as me, it's more difficult for them to apply for visas, especially like back home. I get people
Mm,
asking me, Ashley, how did you apply for the visa to Bali or how did you apply for the visa to Europe? And I would tell them how to do it. I do tell them, but the system back home is more difficult and more complex than the system in the UAE. So that's how I've managed to travel without really much of a hustle, you
yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
that's the advantage that I've had. So I'm not sure how people can actually, I'm not sure how people back home or how difficult it is for people back home to apply locally, like in Zimbabwe.
Mm,
But yeah, I would love to actually find out more on that. I'm just going to speak to a few people soon who are going to try and apply to go to Indonesia. They're going to try and do the whole process. And once they tell me how to do it, I'll be able to advise other people on how best to
yeah.
go about it.
Yeah. It should be
Yeah,
easy. I mean, Indonesia is also very tourist friendly. So, one would hope that
true.
it's simple,
True.
regardless of where you're
Of
from.
course.
Yeah, regardless of where you're from. But no, I
Mm,
mean, weak
mm,
passports have, people traveling have their own challenges, right? And have their own, let's say, added costs as well, right? I mean, Thailand is, okay, not the
mm.
weakest passport in
Exactly.
the world, but it's also not in the upper echelons of, the top 20 or the top 30 passports in
Yeah,
the world, right? Like we still have our own
true.
complications as well. And yeah, I mean, the challenges that you face in terms of planning, in terms of sometimes even uncertainty, right? Because these days countries, they
Mm,
say they give
exactly.
you an electronic travel authorization, which is not really a visa. It's just an authorization to show up at the port of entry and then
Mm,
hedge your bets. And, you know, it's very interesting to see. I'll tell you a story. Like in the news, just a couple of weeks ago, there was this big story about how Thai people are going to boycott South Korea, and that was
okay.
because a lot of the local Thai people, um, you know, they showed up with their electronic travel authorization, and about 30 to 50% get turned away because there's a notorious
Wow.
reputation for people just defecting and doing other illegal shit when they
Mm,
get in there, right? Like overstaying or just disappearing.
mm,
And I've been to South
yeah.
Korea. Fortunately, I've not faced that. Maybe, I'm not like a local Thai, so they think that I have the means to stay here and the means to leave. But
Mm,
yeah, there was a big thing about boycotting these countries because they just like hand out ETAs and then they don't let you in. The next thing you know, you've
mm.
wasted all your money. And people
There
have
was a exactly.
yeah, saved up their life savings. I mean, there was one woman who had saved up 5 years of her income to go here, right? She was a blue collar worker in
Mm,
Thailand and got turned away and lost everything. So,
mm.
unique challenges face
That's really sad.
people. Yeah, people
Yeah,
who
there
hold
are so many
visas.
challenges with traveling. There are so
Yeah,
many challenges. It's not as rosy as how influencers put it out to be. There are a lot of like difficulties, or there are a lot of like challenges behind the what you see on Instagram.
yeah. I mean,
So
tell me a story. Give me
yeah,
give me a
this
personal
is why I'm
example.
here. Sorry.
Give me a personal example.
So for example, you get challenges like applying for visas.
Mm,
You don't know if they're going to approve you or not. You need bank statements. you need NOCs from your employer, you need ABCD. So it's not a guarantee that you will be able to gather all those documents to be able to provide to the embassy, and also even with the ETAs, I tried to do a visa for Vietnam. I wanted to go to Vietnam before I went to Georgia. That was
Okay.
my first destination. But thank God I went to Georgia because I wouldn't have met so many amazing people.
Yes.
Um,
Including me.
yes. So exactly. So I looked around how to get a visa for Zimbabwean to Vietnam, and there was a whole challenge to it because you can't apply through the embassy. You have to apply through a tourism, like a tourist, or a tourism agency in Vietnam, but you don't know how legit some of these tourism agencies are or
Yes.
tour
Yes.
agencies are. You don't know how legit they are because you
Yes.
could pay them. And the thing is, you have to pay them the money before they give you the visa. So you might get a challenge whereby you give them the money and then you don't get the visa and it's a
Yeah, it's a big
scam.
scam. It's a very popular scam
You
there,
know what I
actually,
mean?
believe it or
It's a
not.
big scam.
Very popular
Exactly.
one.
So it's hard. So for now, I don't know how to get a visa for Vietnam, but I've
Mm.
been getting recommendations from other people who've gone there to say, no, use this tourism agency or use this tourism agency. So I'm still trying to weigh my options to see. And I also look at Google reviews. I look up the name of the tourism agency and I kind of look at the reviews and just kind of see how positive or how negative they are. And
Yeah.
I will use it based on how good people have talked about it. So that's how that's a good example of what I can say as a challenge to you, like in terms of visas and, all that. That's one of the challenges I've faced.
Yeah.
And I haven't
Yeah.
been able to visit Vietnam, It's a beautiful country. I want to see it. I want to visit it, but I can't because of that.
Yeah. So, here's a message to Vietnam, right? Make it easy and get rid of the scammers. So, yeah,
Please, please.
yeah, exactly. And you're right. It's a nice place. It's very unique for foreigners like yourself, for sure. I think
Mm,
pretty much every Westerner I know that has been there loves it. Um, and I'm sure that as an African, you will feel the same way because, yeah, African culture in itself is very unique and very different,
yes,
from what you see in Vietnam as well.
yes.
So, yeah. Um, I want to talk about Zimbabwe, right? So you're from Zimbabwe.
Yep,
Um, just tell me a bit
yes.
more about it. How is it like over there? How is it like living there? And how is it like being a tourist in Zimbabwe?
In Zimbabwe. Well, Zimbabwe is like a big tourist destination thanks to our one of the seven wonders of the world, which is Victoria Falls.
Yeah.
So it's quite big on tourism, but not a lot of people go there because of the political stability and the economy. But
Mm.
you know, putting that aside, it's an amazing tourist destination. And besides that, it's not just Victoria Falls that we have. We've got so many, lakes, dams. We've got natural parks, natural wildlife parks, and
Yeah.
with over 160, different species. We've got uh, I don't know, so many things. I'm trying to name so many, but the
Yeah.
fact that
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
just
It's
asked
okay.
me, everything just, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. It's okay.
But
It's
we've got
okay.
so many things. Yeah, it's amazing. We've got, in Yanga, there's this beautiful, forest,
Hmm.
if I can say, or mountainous place
Yeah.
that it's kind of like mythical. It's kind of
Hmm.
like sacred because
Wow.
they say, according to what I've heard, you will find like trees with human, well, that have genitalia, human genitalia on them. And if you laugh at those trees, you might just disappear. They might never find you. You know what I mean? Like
Wow.
they might never find you if you laugh. So you might see something funny, a funny tree, and you're tempted to say, "Ah ha ha, look, that's a funny tree." Don't do that. You might just disappear, and they might never find you. It'll be
Wow.
difficult to find you. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. It's really interesting.
Well, that's a
I've
first.
never
That's a
gone there.
first.
I've never experienced it.
Yeah.
I've never really experienced it, but I've heard. from other people. Like, no, if
Yeah.
you go to this place, don't do this.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting to just kind of have that experience,
Yeah, and I mean,
you
African
know?
culture is also very huge on superstitious beliefs and, voodoo sciences and all
Exactly.
that. So I'm sure that these things, maybe they have some substance to it there.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. It's all in there. It's all in there. So yeah, it's something to experience for sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
it's very interesting because I mean I can speak from my own perspective. I've obviously looked into visiting Zimbabwe before, and I think like every other traveler out there, if I was to go to Zimbabwe, I would also go
Mm.
to Zambia, and do it
Mm-hmm.
together, right? Might as well because Livingston National Park is also just around the corner
Yes.
once you cross the border. So most people would look to
Yes.
do that, but what I've noticed in my own not just my own research, but also in speaking to other people that are hesitant about visiting is two things, right? And the first
Mm-hmm.
one is mobility, right? There's not,
Mm-hmm.
very, very advanced, uh, ways to travel around the country or even around the continent, right? As much as they would be, let's say in
Mm-hmm.
Asia or Europe or elsewhere. And the second thing is, I think
Yes.
there's this perception issue about like safety for tourists. And this is why I'm really happy to have you on
Yes.
board as a local, right? On the show as a local to come and talk about it. Because when I talk to other tourists, they're like, oh yeah, I want to go to Zimbabwe, but I'm gonna have to like walk around with like a wheelbarrow and buckets of money, and I don't know, like my embassy's not there, like I don't know what happens to me, like I'm not gonna go home, like I'm scared I'll never come out again,
Yeah.
something. And I would like to
Exactly.
assume
Yeah.
that's not true.
Well, it's partly true, but not
Okay.
all of it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like every other country. There's a certain level of safety,
Yeah.
and it's just the same as Zimbabwe. It's not. I can't say it's 100% safe. It's
Yes.
not 100% safe. Of course, you have places whereby if you go there and you're splashing out money and showing off your phone, taking selfies, you might just get your phone stolen.
Yeah.
They might just grab it and run. And then there's
Yes.
some places where you can feel safe. So it depends on where you are, which region you are. And in terms of mobility, yeah, that's true. We don't have the best transport system, to be
Yeah.
honest. I
Yeah.
mean, you can't exactly say you can take a bullet train from Harare, the capital of
Yeah.
Zimbabwe,
Yeah. To
to
Cape Town.
Lusaka,
No?
which is the
Yeah.
capital of Zambia, or Cape Town. Exactly. You can't take a bullet train. You have to take a bus, or you have to drive on your own. But we don't have the best roads, and it will be a quite long journey for you,
Yeah.
because to say from Harare all the way to Johannesburg, it's like a day trip. So imagine, and we don't have the best roads. Please keep in mind, we don't have the best roads. We're not yet fully developed. We're getting
Yes.
there,
Yes. Yeah.
but yeah, slowly but surely. So it's hard for us to move around, and as well as going abroad. You can't get a direct flight all the way to Bali. You can't get a direct flight to France.
Yeah.
You have to connect with some other country to in some other country, because
Yeah.
we don't have many airlines,
Yeah.
coming into our country. We have
Yeah.
maybe like what, four, five, six, I don't know, but not many of them go to all these destinations around the world. So
Yeah.
it's kind of difficult. So with that in mind, it will be expensive for someone to say, oh, I want to become a traveler like Ran. I want to become a traveler like some other influencer on Instagram. You can't, because it's expensive. Because imagine having to catch a flight. Maybe you want to go to France, and your connecting flight is in maybe France or Ethiopia. It's quite costly than having to just go directly.
Yes.
You know what I
Definitely.
mean?
Definitely.
Because you have to
Definitely.
you have to go to another country to catch another flight. So yeah, it's that's where the challenge is for most Africans, I feel.
Yeah.
It,
It's so
yeah,
true.
it's
It's so
most
true.
Africans from the central to the southern region. I feel like northern part of Africa, Ethiopia, it's developing. It's got Ethiopian Airlines. There's
Yeah.
Kenya, but there's Kenyan Airways as well. They're lucky. They can be able to. But for us Zimbabweans, we don't have like Zimbabwean Airways, or we have
Yeah.
to use other countries' airlines,
Yeah.
and it can be quite costly. It
Mm.
can be quite costly. So I'm lucky to be in the middle of everything, to be able to travel, being in the middle of
Yeah.
the world. But for those people back home, it's not as easy as it may seem to be.
Yeah, I mean, and you make up a good point, and it's also the reverse way around, right? Because for someone like me coming from
Mm,
Asia, our only gateway to the continent at the moment, in terms of going directly to anywhere in Africa, is just Kenya Airways and Ethiopian, right? So, and Africa
exactly.
is huge. You know, like the map makes it look tiny, but if you want to fly from Cote d'Ivoire, which is on the far west side of Africa, you know, from Ethiopia, you're flying
Mm,
a hell of a long time. So, you know, it's
exactly.
yeah, it can be quite an arduous journey. And, you know, I think one thing that would really benefit not just Africa, but also tourists that want to come and visit and want to learn more is obviously better storytelling, right? In terms of, hey, like, you know, we
Hmm.
might not be there yet, but we've got all these things. Like, for example, in Zimbabwe, we've got Victoria Falls,
Yeah.
which I think a lot of people know, but, you know, all of the other forests and these other, you know, ritualistic things that are unique, you know, that might be interesting to
Yeah.
travelers. And yeah, as you said, like opening
Yeah.
up more channels to come and visit, right? And making it
Exactly.
a more simplified process. Like I understand if you can't build a whole new airport, but maybe have more flights, right? Have more flights coming in that are able to
Exactly.
service the demands on shorter distance routes. Um, that very much
True.
changes things for sure. But yeah,
Mm.
I'm I really want to go. It's so fascinating for me to
You
visit that
should.
region.
You should. You should. Honestly, I want to encourage you to go. Of course, I can't say it's 100% safe,
Yeah,
but it's worth it. It's worth it. I mean, just don't go to the wrong side of like the wrong part of town.
yeah,
Stay where you know you are safe. You know what I
yes,
mean?
exactly,
Just
exactly.
explore. Exactly. So just explore the world, like explore the country, but just stay in the safer parts, safer areas. You
Yeah,
know, it's
and
like
that can be
if you
said
go
about
down an
everywhere.
alley and if you, yeah, it's like when you want to you want to go home, like, you know, in Georgia, you can just walk maybe at 3 a.m. and nothing can happen to you. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? It's safe. But in Zimbabwe, if you walk home at 3 a.m., of course, you're looking for danger. You're like asking, you know, the people to come and rob you or something. So you should know the timing, when to move around, where to move around, and how to move around. You
yeah,
know, that's the best tip I can give uh, people from, you know, other countries who want to come and visit Zimbabwe.
yeah. No, that's well, it's great tips,
Mm.
right? And for anyone that's looking obviously to get more details, I'm sure Ashley will be happy to help and answer more questions. But yeah, I
I'll be
want to
here.
dive in. I want to dive in a bit more onto the, let's say, the African culture, and let's call it the
Mhm.
mindset, right? And mindset and approach towards traveling. So from what I've spoken to you before, like most African people are not, uh, you know, open-minded to traveling the world, right? Whether it's expense or anything. But I think you've
Mhm.
mentioned before that it's kind of a cultural thing to kind of fear it because they don't know enough, right? So as someone that, you know, is an
True.
African yourself and has grown up in this
Mhm.
kind of country around people like that, like how did you kind of come out of that, first of all, and second of all, how would you encourage other people who are kind of on the fence to go for
Yeah. So, well, you
it?
know, traveling in Africa, well, from the, the African point of view, you know, not so many people or not so many families kind of encourage it.
Mm,
Why? Because first of all, it's costly and it's something that they've never really experienced before. So they can't encourage something that they've never experienced. They can't tell their child to go to France. They've never been to France. They don't know how safe it is. You
hmm.
know, so that mindset kind of sets back a lot of Africans. And I feel like just the fear of going out there, you know, just the fear of taking a leap of faith and just going to see what's out there kind of like forces them to come back because they haven't seen many Africans doing it. Like me, I'm a solo traveler. I don't travel with people. So imagine someone else who wants to be a solo traveler and wants to do it. They don't have that form of encouragement because there's no one else they see doing it. But if I come here on your platform and I kind of showcase what I'm doing or what I've done, where I've gone, they will be able to be encouraged by that. Well, I hope they will be able to be encouraged by that because, you know, so many African families, it's just about culture. And, for example, in my family, not any, like nobody in my family has ever traveled before, you know.
Okay.
My uncle did start traveling. He went to one or two places for business, of course. And I feel like that's also where my inspiration came from. Cause he would send pictures from like Namibia or like China. And I'd be like, okay, this place exists. Like these
Wow.
kind of places exist. Like, okay, they were so beautiful. And, it's one of the things that kind of contributes, but I'm sure I told you the one thing that really led to me wanting to travel, which I
Yeah.
will talk about later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you so, you know, my mom always questioned like, why are you traveling alone? Is it safe where you're going? Do you need to go? You know, my grandmother would be asking, Ashley, you know, what are the odds that, you know, you come back alive? You know, there's so much politics going on in the world. A, B, C, D, you know, she'd be trying to discourage me. But then
Yes.
as I started doing it, I just took a look at the leap of faith and I did it. And as I started, you know, just doing it more, they kind of got comfortable with the idea of me traveling
Yeah.
because I just kind of introduced them to this new unfamiliar world. You know,
Yeah.
they just kind of, you know, opened up to this thing. And, you know, I've kind of inspired more people in my family to kind of travel. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's how it is in Africa. It's not easy. It's not easy because you won't get full support from your family. Because
Yeah.
first of all, they just want you to be rooted in your home country. They just want you to be rooted there.
Hmm.
And, you know, they expect you to, like, after you finish university or college or whatever, they expect you to get a job and get married. That's it. Settle down. Nothing else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's some people like us who have just gone out there. And I'm sure there are more Zimbabweans who are solo traveling and traveling or have gone to more places than I have who haven't really, you know, showed it out there to other people. Like,
Yeah.
who haven't really, like, my goal is to show people the world through my eyes. That's what I want to do. I want to show everybody the world through my eyes, how I
Yeah.
see the world. So everything that I post on Instagram or on any social media platform is just to show people how beautiful the world is through my
Yeah.
eyes. Everything I
Yeah.
capture is just through my eyes. I've had people DMing me on Instagram asking about certain places that I've been to, like France, like how do you go about France as a solo traveler, as a black solo female traveler? You
Mm.
know, I've had people asking me about Bali. I've had people asking me about Thailand. You know, it's amazing because I didn't know that I kind of reached to so many people. And it's
Yeah.
like the African community that is reaching to me and asking me these things, you know? And
Hmm.
it's so beautiful because I want to see our community grow in traveling. I want to meet so many African people, you know, in weird places. Like I want to go to
Yeah.
Antarctica and I want to see an African, like, oh, boy, what's up? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Speak truth
You
to power,
know?
man. I love that,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. True, true. So it's like that. It's like when I went to Iceland, I did not expect to see a lot of black people, and I was like, okay, all right, I'm going to Iceland. I'm kind of scared. It kind of like set me back a little because I was like, okay, I'm going to go there, and then what's going to happen? I'm going to be so scared. Like, I didn't know what to expect. But when I
Mm.
went there, I saw so many people, so many Africans, Black Americans, you know, so many people from different like parts of the world. It's not
Yeah.
just Africans, but so many Asian people, so many people from South America, you know, it was just so beautiful. I was like, okay, so, you know, the traveling community is kind of growing in every
Yes.
aspect. And I want the Africans to also, you know, take charge and see the world. It's not just the Westerners who have to see the world. Cause, you know, we grew up on the assumption that, you know, only the Westerners, you know, get to see the
Yeah.
world. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
There's
Cause
an advantage to that.
when we watch movies,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. So, you know, when we watch movies back then, you know, when we were kids, we'd see after college, they go, like, they take 1 year off traveling. I'm like, oh, okay, it's just for the Western years. But no, it's not. Anybody can do it. Anybody.
Yes.
So I just hope I encourage someone else out there who is scared of traveling alone to just take a leap of faith. Take a leap of faith, you know,
Hmm.
just do it. It's
Yeah.
an amazing experience.
One thing I'll add to that as well is that the travel community is very tight knit. You know, especially when you're solo
Mm,
traveling, it's very, very easy to get on the road, meet like-minded people from your own culture or others.
mm,
Um,
exactly.
and it's a tight knit community. If you're in trouble, people will help you. If you have questions, people will help you. If you want to go
That's
out and
true.
spend and have fun on the road and engage in activities, people will be there to do it with you. Some of the best
To
memories of
exactly.
my life have come from being on the road, right? Whether it's going out on Carnival in Brazil or meeting you in Georgia with everybody else on our group. I mean, these are memories that
Yeah,
last a lifetime, and lifelong friends too, from the road, because you've
that's
experienced
true.
something together that's so unique. Like you're the only few people that can talk about that shared experience together, and I think that's a very powerful thing as well.
Exactly.
So
True.
that's
I
something I would
remember,
add.
like,
Yeah,
speaking of creating memories, I still remember that one time we all sat together on one table in, was it,
in
where were we
Casvegi,
when we were eating? That's
the
Becky,
hotel,
yes.
yeah,
We
the
were all there,
rooms
surrounded
hotel.
by the mountains, just talking about all our stories, our travel stories. It was just so beautiful. That's one memory that has just stuck in
Yeah,
my mind. Like every time I just think about that memory, I feel happy,
same
you
here.
know?
Same here. Same here. I
Yeah.
concur completely. And that group's great. That group's really great. And it's funny,
Uh,
we just went on one trip
Amazing
together for like
people.
7, 8 hours, and all of us are making plans to meet each other around the world, no matter where we are. Some are
Right?
coming to Thailand, and maybe
True.
and maybe I'll see you in Zimbabwe someday. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's true. Like, I'm making plans with other people in the UK. Like, oh, we're going to Kenya. We're going to Iceland. We're going to Tanzania. We're all making plans, but we
yeah,
only met for like less than 12 hours, and it was just the best experience.
yeah,
Creating
yeah.
memories. That's what it's about. Yeah, and
So
creating
that's
friends as
another
well,
thing.
making new friends.
Yeah, that's another thing, right? Like, if you want to solo travel, get out
Mm,
there. There will be people who are in the same boat as you, and you'll experience a lot of great things,
true.
a lot of good things, by doing it as well. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt about that. But on the flip side,
That's true.
right, solo traveling can be challenging, right? And I want to
Mm,
be someone that, brings the truth to the table on this channel. I don't want to just gloss over something and not, see both sides of the coin, right? Solo traveling can be a
mm,
challenge. It can be hard, right? So what are some of the challenges that
true.
you faced personally that, you think other people should also know and be realistically conscious about?
So to be honest, while solo traveling, I have experienced loneliness. That's the biggest thing I've experienced during my travels. I mean, you get to have so much fun, you get to meet so many people, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I'm alone. You know what I mean? You kind of feel like
Yeah.
some crippling loneliness coming in. Yeah, you kind of feel lonely, and it's one of the challenges I've faced. And also being a female, there's some places where you go and they just like look down on you just because you're a female. They think, oh, you're weak. You can't do certain things. Like, uh, for example, if I
Hmm.
go to, um, for example, I'm trying to look for a good example here. Um, yeah, I'm trying to look for like, okay, I can't really say I've got a good example right now because everything just went out of my head. But there are certain places where I go, which which require, some male, what can I say?
Supervision.
Something like that. Some male supervision. You're not entirely safe. You're not
Yeah.
entirely um, respected or something like that. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like there's
Definitely.
some places that I go to and you just need some male supervision. You need some male supervision. You need someone who is able to just take control of certain situations. And yeah, I've faced that during my travels a lot, but you know, regardless of that, it's always worth the trip. It's always worth it, regardless of the
Yeah.
challenges that I face. And sometimes there are unexpected things that do happen during the trip, and there are times when you literally budget for a certain trip, like, okay, I'm going to do this on my trip. And then something unexpectedly happens. You know what I mean? Or like when I was in Iceland, my car almost broke down, but it didn't. Good thing. But in the event it had,
Yeah.
and I was in the middle of nowhere, it would have been a challenge because I had already budgeted for that certain trip to say, I'm going to use these funds for this trip. And
Yeah.
now I have to kind of like, inconvenience like either one of my family members or myself, or take out some of my savings to just use on this certain trip. So those are the kind of challenges I've faced when I traveled. But the biggest one being loneliness. But I still love it. I still love traveling alone. I don't see
Yeah.
myself traveling with other people. I don't think we would really
Yeah.
get
Yeah. Yeah.
along because
Yeah.
I'm
At least not
used
long term.
to
Yeah.
doing things my way. Exactly. I'm used
Yeah.
to doing things a certain way. So it's like if I were to travel with a family member, it would be like arguing all the way. If I were to travel with a close friend as well, it'd be like, okay, we're gonna do this, this, and that, and that. I would want to do things my own way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that those are the kind of challenges that I've faced while traveling.
Yeah.
So
No, no. And it's fair, right? I
yeah.
think the loneliness also particularly comes from not having a base to go back to. So I'm very
Mm.
fortunate. I mean, I travel, I think the longest I've been from home consecutively is about 6 weeks. So,
Oh
my
wow.
strategy is to always come up for air, right? If I'm away for 6 weeks, I want to come
Okay.
back home and stay home for a little bit, maybe for a month or 2 months, and then head back out
Mm.
again, right? It's always good to come up for
Mm.
air because it's
Yes.
necessary, right? At the end of the day, travel is a
True.
part of your
True.
life, right? It's a part of your life. It's a part of
Mm.
who you are, but it is not who you are. So, in its entirety.
Exactly.
So, as much as I would love to see more people getting out there, especially from communities like ours that are, let's say, underrepresented, in the solo travel world around the world, um,
Mm.
I'd love to see more of that, but I'm also very, you know, very realistic about certain things that are positive, which is a majority, but potential negatives
Mm-hmm.
like that as well. So I concur with you on that 100%. Before I wrap it up, um, I wanted to definitely ask you, like, if you had a message that you wanted to really get across from the 35 plus minutes that we've been here to record this for the people at home,
Mm.
for the people in Africa, what would you say?
Well, I just want to encourage people to see the world. Honestly, it's worth it. It's worth your time. It's worth your money. And just take a leap of faith and go out there. If you don't know how to start or how to do it, there's Ranveer to ask. There's me to ask. You're free to come on my platform on Instagram and ask me anything that you want to know about traveling. You know, I just want to encourage the African community to be specific to just take a leap of faith, save up. I know it can be um, expensive to travel, but just try it. Start with one country. You don't have to go far. Go on the central side of Africa. Just go maybe to Tanzania, Zanzibar. Try that out. And once you go to that one destination, trust me, the itch will continue to just come on you like that. So
Yeah.
I just want to encourage them to just go out there and do it, regardless of the visa process, because the visa process might take a long time
Hmm.
and it might be frustrating. But at the end of the day, it's all about just going
Yeah.
out there and seeing the world, regardless of
Yeah.
how long it'll take,
Or even
So I just
for
want to,
experimentation purposes, just go to one where it's easy,
mm,
right? I mean, I know Zimbabweans can
exactly.
enter certain places without a visa. It's not the worst passport
Mm,
in the world, but pick one of those, right? Make your life easy, get a ticket, get out there and experiment, and next thing you know,
exactly.
you'll become like Ashley traveling around 3, 4 continents, based somewhere else, or someone like me
Yeah, it's
who's
a
going to
good
be
thing.
heading into 55 soon.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's, oh,
soon.
you see, he's been to more countries than I have, so that's good. And it kind of just helps you to broaden your horizons
Yeah,
and to just have a creative mind. There's this creativity that comes in you when you travel, and it's beautiful. And I feel like everybody should experience it, not just a few, select people, but everybody around the world. And yeah, just go out there and do it, guys.
yeah. Just get
Encourage you to
started.
do it.
Just
Yeah.
get started. Exactly. So
Yeah.
with that, I want to thank you for your time, Ashley. I really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me around there. It was fun. It was really fun.
Yeah, no, same here, same
Yeah.
here. And if you want
Mm.
to know more about Ashley or reach out to her, I'm going to put her Instagram in the description box right below there.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Ashley, and
Yeah.
we'll do this again soon. I hope
Definitely. I hope so. And I hope we'll link up soon,
we have
the
to.
whole group. Yeah. It will be amazing.
We have to. Well, thank you, Ashley. Have a good one.
All right, Ranvir. Have a good one too.